Okay, well, thanks everybody for joining us. Today is part 2 of our Marketing Lunch and Learn series sponsored by Desjardins Insurance. And today's topic is how to optimize your digital marketing program. Our guest speaker today is Laura Veldkamp. Laura is the founder and Chief Engagement Officer of Watershed Marketing Group, a diverse marketing strategy and consulting firm focusing on the entrepreneur who is growing and scaling their business. Referred to as a small business therapist by clients, Laura Veldkamp brings more than 30 years of successful small business ownership and corporate experience to her work that has enabled dozens of business owners to quickly achieve tangible results and find the drive needed to continue to build their business with clarity and focus. With her dynamic, insightful, and results-getting approach, Laura is the trusted marketing advisor, consultant, and mentor to her clients. Typically running businesses from 100,000 to 55 million in revenues across diverse industries, they seek an objective ear and eye to help focus priorities, strengthen leadership, engage with stakeholders, and build momentum. So Laura, I will turn it over to you and welcome today.
Thank you, Sandra. All right, folks, we have a lot to cram into the session today, and I mean cramming. This is almost going to be like a speed dating round on how to do your digital marketing program. And I welcome all of you and thank you very much for taking the time out of your schedules today and out of your lunches. Feel free to, I see there's a lot of cameras off. I'm assuming a lot of people are eating while they're watching. Lucky you, I'll do that after. But I just want to make sure that we get as much covered as we can. And in the short period of time, there will be question and answer at the end. So please put your questions into the chat. Sandra and I will both monitor that at the end. And Sandra, I'm counting on you, keep me on time. So if you can give me sort of the 15 minutes signal, it could be a head pad. It doesn't matter, whatever you want to do. So that we'll have time for questions and at the end. Okay, so I have been doing this a very long time, so there's a lot crammed into this brain. I know that I probably speak a little bit quickly. I'll try and slow down. I felt like I was rushing the last one a little bit just because there's so much great information to download for you to make you more successful. So today the goals are for the session is understanding what metrics are crucial and how to track them. The platforms that best relate to your ideal client, how to leverage and amplify your content and get more eyeballs on your site, and hedging against platform changes. You've all seen the news, Twitter's changing, Instagram's changing, Meta for Facebook and Instagram, Meta's making more changes again, YouTube has added shorts, on social media, there's changes inevitable and it's happening with more frequency and there's not a lot of control. So we're going to talk about how to hedge against that. As we get started, really the first thing we want to talk about is goal setting. So how many of you with this, there should be a reactions opportunity in your reactions button in your Zoom profile there in the help me out here in the controls. There should be an opportunity to raise your hand. So I'd like to see if you could raise your hand to tell me if you have goals set for your digital marketing. It's usually under the more button if you can't see it and it's reactions or a little thing. We've got one hand up, two hands up, three hands up, thumbs up. Awesome. Okay. So great. Thank you, everyone. So a lot of folks will have goals in their head, but not necessarily written down. But I'm going to tell you right now that if you have to start somewhere and you need to have some ideas of what you want to do with your online marketing, digital marketing. So business goals first. Typical marketing goals are to increase brand awareness, manage your reputation online. This one, of course, click-throughs to your website, especially if you have e-commerce, improving your community engagement, being a good corporate citizen and a good community citizen, boosting your conversions and sales, generating leads, delivering customer service, which can be done online, gaining market insights, and attracting candidates for recruiting. I know that's a big hotspot right now for a lot of businesses, so I hope you're not one of them, but if you are, this is social and online marketing is a great way to do that. So those are typical goals. I'm sure you have other ones. Those are general marketing goals. Social media in particular takes care of or ticks the boxes of increasing brand awareness, managing the reputation. It can increase traffic to your website, and it should, if you're looking to do that, it should be one of your measures that you track. And improving community engagement. It actually does all of these things if you do it properly. The biggest question we have often is, how do I know whether my marketing is working? And one of those things obviously is you need to be measuring things, as we just talked about. So when you're talking about social, what things can you be measuring? Measuring things like what we call vanity metrics, the likes, the shares, the comments, the follows, the any kind of tagging, that kind of thing. That's one of the things that you should measure on social. On your general digital, you want to also measure your website traffic. Make sure that you're getting people through, if that is your goal, getting through to people on your website. If you don't have a website and you use Facebook as your website, I don't know how many people might be doing that in this session, but consider website traffic Facebook traffic. If you have leads, you should be measuring your leads, how many sales inquiries you're getting, how many you're generating from social or from the website or from some other process. So when we're talking about digital marketing, as opposed to, so that would be online marketing versus the traditional print advertising, newspaper, offline marketing that we call that now. Tracking all of those things where the leads are coming from are really important. And one comment on this, leads, most people, if they call you and you ask them, where did you hear about us? That's a great question to ask. 9 times out of 10, they will tell you the last place they remember seeing you, not necessarily the first. So keep that in mind with social, because social can be a gateway into a longer conversation, but they may not always track where they or remember where they saw you first. And then the other thing you should be tracking is revenue from these leads. Now, these are pretty straightforward measurements. As far as what you should be tracking generally, there's also more specific things you could be tracking as a general part of your business metrics and part of your marketing, but these would be key items digitally online. How to track, again, we're talking very high level here. There's several ways to track. I would say if you do not have Google Analytics set up for your website right now, you need to get that done. It is free, and you can basically you're putting a code in. You set up an account with Google Analytics. It generates an account for your asset, which is your website. And you put that tracking code into your website, and then you can also use Google Analytics to create specific codes called UTMs, Universal Tracking Measures. It's like if you ever look at when you've clicked through a link, you get this long string after the website link of question mark and then a bunch of information. That's usually a UTM code, so it helps to track specific links. So Google Analytics, I would set that up first, because it will tell you how people are getting to your website, either social, referral, organically, or direct, among other things. But you'll be able to see traffic and how they go through your website, which is critical. Second way to track is your platform insights. So Facebook has insights, Instagram has insights, YouTube has insight, everybody has insights. So Pinterest doesn't matter. You want to be able to take a look at those numbers and recognize them routinely, check them routinely. So we'll talk a bit about that. And then, of course, your results. So on digital specifically, if you have content where you're encouraging with a call to action to do something like download something or sign up for a newsletter or book an appointment or buy something, those results you also need to be tracking. Make sense? Okay. So the first thing, if you don't have that set up yet, what you want to do is you want to benchmark. So start today or start December 1st or whenever you're ready, and benchmark where you are. So how many visitors you have to your different platform, how many followers, how many shares, how many likes, how many leads from different sources, so that you can start somewhere, so you know how, and you can monitor and gauge the success rate for your return on your investment for the time that you put into social or other online digital what's the word? I'm losing it. venues or pathways. I don't know what's going on today. Must be the sunshine. Okay, so when you set your goals, as we talked about earlier, the goals then you can take from your benchmark to say, okay, I want to increase followers or web traffic in this case by 10%. So if I have 100, I want 110 followers. How am I going to get there? So you can track those things every month or every quarter, definitely as frequently as you probably check your financial reports. These are also reports for marketing that you should be checking because you need to be tying it back into your return on investment. So how many more followers do you want every month? How many more leads do you want every month? Those goals then get put into your benchmarking to compare as you go along for each period. It's pretty straightforward. I think most of you are probably already doing this. And if you aren't, it's a great time to start. Now is a great time to start. Okay, next question always is, how do we choose our platforms, specifically in social media and elsewhere? Where do we invest our time? What do we talk about? Who are we reaching out to? And that's really the key thing, is a buyer persona. Now, we talked about this for those who were in the last episode, or the last webinar with me, and any other webinars that I've done, or other engagements I've done. Buyer personas, also known as ideal client profiles, are critical. A buyer persona, for those who aren't aware, is really an avatar with a description, a very in-depth description of who your buyer is and what motivates them. And the more information that you have and the more understanding you have of a specific client or a client type, you'll be able to communicate more effectively and you'll be able to reach them more effectively. It's critical that you know who your buyer is. And you may have several. You may have 3, 5 different types of buyers. You need to profile each one so that you can reach out, because each one may need something different from you. We have a client who sells, for instance, a household equipment. They sell a product that most households have, but they sell a variation of that product. And they know that their YouTube channel they use for technical know-how and explaining things, because they know that their DIY their DIY client will be, or prospect will be there looking for information. Whereas another group where another platform that they share on would be Instagram and also Pinterest, and they do those channels because they know that the people who are looking there are looking for inspiration, and so they can provide different content based on their profiles in different channels. So it's important to know your buyer persona, their background, where they live, work, and play, what their values and beliefs are, what their pains, challenges, frustrations are, and the problems that they have that you can solve. So that's what you're looking for, is who are they? Where will I find them? Or where do I think I can find them? And then you can figure out your platform based on those information pieces. So that's important. So focuses on who you're targeting, keeps you and your team focused on how best to serve their needs. It reduces your marketing budget because you're not taking that broad spectrum approach to throwing spaghetti at the wall to see what's going to work and how I can reach them. You're actually being focused and strategic in how your approach is going to pan out for that particular buyer. And it allows you to segment better. So you can, if you can segment, for example, that one client I was mentioning about, we have a DIY user and we have a designer, interior design kind of user, and they have different needs, and we can offer products and even sales for that matter in different ways for what those individual client segments are looking for. So I hope that makes sense for everyone. And then because of that, because you're focusing better and you're spending less time trying stuff out too much, you actually improve your return on investment.
You what?
All right. Sandra, can you mute everyone, please? And then we'll unmute each other when we're ready for questions. Okay, so this is a buyer's journey. For those of you in the last presentation on earlier, this is a slide that you'll be familiar with. We talk about a client and how they go through the process of buying from us. So why we solve the problems, how we solve why they're looking for stuff, how we solve their problems, what we solve, and where. And then we talk about what stage they're in here, and they're in their thinking and in their research. And then these are all the different touch points that you could be using to connect with them. So there's a lot there. You don't have to do them all. It's just an example of what a buyer's journey would be. So when you have a persona, you need to understand more about them and what their process is so that you can reach them the best way and promote with the ideal information that will be relevant for them, because that's very important. So when your clients and prospects are looking for you, what is the research process? Well, this report is a recent report from Hootsuite, and they talk about where people go first. So search engines is the number one. So if you don't have a website, you probably need one, because that's where they're going to find you first. And if it's an individual, you're a consultant, probably LinkedIn is where you're going to end up. But they're going to look for you first on social or on search engines, and Google being number one. I think there's something like 92% of people use Google as a search engine now. So that's a big one. The second thing they're going to do is look for research you on social media. That's a big one. That just doesn't matter if you are looking to recruit people or if you're looking for prospects and clients. They're going to go to social to check you out. So if you have social profiles, they will find you there. And as it's the second highest item of research area, it's important to have some sort of presence on social. Though we all love to hate it, it's relevant. And then the third place is consumer reviews, the third most important. So Google reviews, Google My Business, Google profiles, all of that will help you in your digital marketing efforts. And encouraging reviews is really important in this day and age. I'm sure all of us have looked to see a ranking of something, whether it's a product that we've bought at Sport Check or a vacation resort to see where we're going to go, or even whether or not the coffee shop has got, down the street's got good reviews, or the new restaurant. So consumer reviews are actually really important. And that's not just for B2C, business to consumer, it's also for B2B. So those are big pieces. So search engine first, so you have to have your website up and keywords and SEO on that one, social networks and consumer reviews. And then you'll see the next thing is brand and product websites. That's the fourth place they'll go directly. Okay. So social. We are social as Canadians. These are the numbers. This is a very recent study that was done here in Toronto, and Facebook is still number one, though you'll see these numbers here. The orange is 2020 and the 2022 is blue. So you can see what's declining and what's increasing. So there's not a lot oh wait, TikTok. There we go. TikTok's increasing, Reddit's increasing. There's a number that will be increasing, but generally speaking, you're still looking at Facebook and YouTube as the two highest, and Instagram the third. The messaging apps like WhatsApp and Snapchat, if you have that capability within your business, that's a way to communicate with your clients when you've already got them captured, or advertising, which we'll talk about later. But it's important to see that people are still on. The question you want to ask yourself is, are my people on those platforms, and which one is going to work the best for me? So we'll talk about that in a minute. Social, again, we're looking at where people mostly are. It's Facebook, YouTube, and Instagram, top three, hands down. And in that, Instagram, CIRA, that's the Canadian Internet Registry Association, that's Canadian.ca's. 40% of Canadian users use Instagram, 40%, 58.2% use Instagram each month, which means that only there's a difference between how many people actually have accounts and how many people get to the accounts anyway. You see that difference in the percentages there? So we have, it's a popularity is across all income brackets. So when you're doing a demographic on Instagram, profile on your client, it doesn't really matter. It's everybody's interested in it. But what's interesting is women to men comparisons. So if you know that you have more female prospects than male prospects, or if you're targeting females, you're going to be looking at Instagram as a good source for that. In fact, most of the platforms are the big use platforms are women use predominantly, but the video platforms are more masculine use, so more male use. So 86% of Canadian women use Facebook, 75% men. On YouTube, it is actually more men, but the age group is actually a younger age group. However, 16 to 8, that's a large age demographic. They look for tutorials, how-to, and other educational videos online. That's a big number. Okay, so if you have a business where you can explain things, YouTube is great, and YouTube has just launched their YouTube Shorts recently, and also now where you couldn't before, you can claim your handle on YouTube, where you can say like at Watershed Marketing or at Laura Veldkamp. I can actually claim that instead of having some other encrypted link information as the URL. So you can customize your handle now on YouTube, which is great. They're trying to keep up with TikTok, and YouTube is Google. So you have to remember this. When you're promoting yourself, YouTube is Google. So if you have YouTube content that's searchable, and we'll talk about that briefly, Google likes it, which means your search engine ranking can go up with your YouTube posts. It will go up with Facebook and others as well, but it will go up. There's a bigger weight on Google-based products. So just keep that in mind. And then 65% of Canadian adult users report following influencers, and which we'll talk about later too. So how to amplify, we'll talk about that and how to amplify. So it's interesting to see the stats here, and there's all sorts of stats. We're going to talk about search engines quickly here and consumer reviews. So this is a really important reason for you to have Google. Google My Business, claim your profile. Even if you are based out of your home, you don't have to have your address showing. You can just show like Newmarket or Aurora or whatever for your location, but you should have your business page claimed so that you can encourage reviews there, as we talked about earlier, and so that you can increase your Google's liking you on your algorithms, your company. Okay, and if you have a retail product or retail location, absolutely, you need Google My Business. And if you don't already, get it today. Go claim it today, claim your page and get it started. It's not hard and it's free. It's just enter some information, your hours and what have you. And you can give some descriptions as to what you do and what you offer, and you're set. And then you can add things as you get more sophisticated in your marketing. You can add more information into that profile. Okay, consumer reviews we spoke about. And so now how do I choose what channel to, or what platforms really to use to reach my clients? And again, we talked about those users. They may be on more than one channel. They may have a preference. They may have a preference for one or the other, or one or two over others. So you need to really do a little bit of sleuthing to find out where they are. And your best bet to do that is to ask them where they hang out online, or listen to their conversation. And just, if you haven't started a program already, just choose one or two platforms to start with. You don't have to be on everything. In fact, it's probably better if you're not in some regards. I know that several of our clients recently, with all the changes at Twitter, if you haven't heard about them, I don't know, you need to come out from under the rock. But Elon, with all the changes for Twitter, have caused a lot of organizations to get off the platform. And Facebook had that whole thing last year where anything Facebook, even Starbucks was boycotting. So you have to be mindful. And we're going to talk about hedging your bets against things like that at the end of this. Oh, I guess we have some sort of delivery. Okay, so amplifying our message and leveraging our messaging. So it's all about the eyeballs. It's really a volume game. So you want to have, again, that brand awareness, but you really want to have as many people out there. Basically, social media and digital marketing creates an opportunity for you to go and meet a whole bunch of people without actually having to travel for it. That's really all it is, in a very broad sense. and communicate with them the message. So what you want to do is make sure you're really getting as many people aware, making as many people aware of your company as possible, or of your services. So we talked about this buyer's journey before, and we're really talking about discovery and learning. Those are the two areas we're talking about for social and building brand awareness. So when you're leveraging your content, it's how to create content that is meaningful, and that is something that you can use in many to cross-populate, so to use in many different forms. And I'll talk about that in a minute, but I really want to talk about authentic content. So how many of you now, I don't know if we can all raise our hands again, but how many of you have read stuff on social and just sort of rolled your eyes really far back in your head because the content isn't necessarily honest, or it seems a little bit absurd, or it's just not great. Where people are making outlandish claims, you want to make sure, there's several of you. Yep. Yeah. So we want to make sure that your content is authentic, because right now, with the way that the world and our psychology is changing, excuse me, we are looking for authenticity. And I know that word's been overused, and I'm guilty of it myself, but it's true that authentic, being real content is critical, especially if you deal with millennials and Gen X, millennials, and even the new group that's coming through, the youngest. So you really want to look at these numbers here. This is what Sprout Social came back with on 81% of consumers will unfollow creators if they post sponsored content more than a few times a week. It just means you're trying to be too pushy. Nobody wants you to be too pushy. Your followers won't want you to be too pushy. So you have to be mindful of that kind of information, but they're also looking for people and information to say they want to experience your brand. They want to know that whoever is talking about your brand looks like they're a real user, which is why some influencers like Kim Kardashian, do you think she actually uses all the brands that she promotes? Probably not, but she'll still be a huge influencer because she's got as many followers as she does. But if you're using influencers or anybody else to communicate your message, collaborations, or you're sharing posts, or you're sharing someone else's post, make sure that they seem like they're a real user and they're authentic. Otherwise, you can lose your followers. You want to make sure that there's high quality content and visually appealing. And there's so many tools to do that with now, like Canva and Splice, and there's all sorts. And even the phones with their cameras, they're amazing. You want to check that people have anybody you're promoting or anybody who you're asking to help promote you have a high follower count, because that'll amplify better, and that your demographics match. Okay, so this is on the amplification side, but authentic content is critical. And your messaging is important too. So at each step in the buyer's journey, you really want to convince them that you understand their pains, challenges, and frustrations. So really what you're doing is breaking down any barriers for them on the trust side. If they have no trust coming in, they're hopeful, they have no trust, your job is to build trust. That's really it. Build trust and a rapport. And when that happens through a perceived understanding of their challenges, right? So if you understand their challenges, they're more likely to continue listening to you and potentially reach out, which is the goal. You can show them how you're solving their problems and meeting their needs. That's important too. Obviously, if you don't show them or build that trust that you can make them feel good or feel safe that they're making a good decision by potentially using you, you're going to miss that sale opportunity. You need to set their experiences with your company. So when you're basically anything you do, anything you communicate is setting up your brand, and your brand really is what you want people to feel about and think about your company, and what they actually do, what their perception of your company is. And if they have no perception, then the promises you make need to be met with your service fulfillment or your product delivery. But if they don't meet, then you have a disconnect, and you have to figure out which has to shift. how you're delivering your product or how they're thinking about your product. And that can shift by how you speak about the experience and setting the expectations differently. And then deliver on your promises. That's just generally speaking for business, right? I'm just going to go back to that. So if you have, I know the construction industry, not to browbeat, but construction and renovation industry right now is taking a beating because for a variety of reasons, but you have issues with supply chain as you do in many industries. And then you also have issues with, I was talking to a renovator recently where they were getting some bad reviews because clients were expecting a cleaner workspace when they were leaving in the evenings, and then our client was leaving. So we had to change that expectation, either change the process or change the expectation of the client, but leave that information there. So having a process in place is also really important. And that's just on the business operations side and communicating that. Okay, there's 3 types of media in digital marketing. There's earned, paid, and owned. Earned is we're going to start with. Earned is really anything that engages your brand, anything where you've created a link to drive traffic through to your website, comments, shares, likes, mentions, reviews, everything that we have listed here. Those are the things that are the earned media. So you've put out a piece of content, people have found it, people have shared it, people have tagged your site or your post. Those things are the important things for earned media. It's basically an exposure and how broad your exposure has been. One of the last comments there is good SEO and content strategies are what drive earned media. Good SEO includes keywords on your website, which I'm not going to talk about today, but it's really important to make sure that you have an understanding of keywords. There's all sorts of online tools that you can use for that. And even in your social media, just at a high level, you want to look into keywords. Leveraging your content. So a lot of people don't realize how easy it is to leverage content. How do I create a post every day? How do I create a blog every month or even every 2 weeks or every week or every day? How do I do that? How do I make sure that I'm getting all that information out in the world? And my brain's going to explode trying to think of putting an editorial calendar together. How many feel like that right now? Raise your hand. Nobody feels like that? Oh, a couple people. Okay. I know that creating one piece of content can actually be amplified to create multiple pieces of content easily, and we just have to get out of our own heads to do so. And here's how you do it. Here, as an example, this video and webinar that you're in right now. If I wanted to do something about this, I could take the recording, I could post it on YouTube, and make sure that there's information in the description so that it's searchable by SEO and a link back to the website, for example. But taking the information on, posting it on YouTube, then I could do a Facebook post about the video and where to find it through Facebook. That links back to the YouTube video. And if I've got the video on my website, even better, I can share it on LinkedIn to let people know that there's a video over here about whatever we're talking about. Goes to LinkedIn. I can do it on Twitter. I'm not going to do it on Twitter anymore. Instagram more likely now. I could write a blog post about it on the website and maybe have a series of blog posts on the content in here and take each point and drive them out as tips, drive them out as oops, wrong way. Put all that information up there, email my subscription list to let them know that there's a new video out and there's blog posts around the content. I can do a podcast about it as well. Let them know that, refer back to this if I'm talking to somebody on a podcast as a guest. I can create an infographic out of some of the content or most of the content because there's a lot of stats in here. I can create a checklist of what you need to do in order to make sure your digital marketing is adequate. And I can create short form posts. That's from one webinar. So how many pieces can you create from one piece of content? I'm doing the content once, creating the video. I can take information from the video transcripts to create all this other content and post it wherever I want to post it and link back and all of this should push forward to the website then to create whatever that call to action would be. For my case, hey, if you want to set up an appointment with me to talk about what you're doing, we can do that. So does this make sense to everybody? Thumbs up, hands up. If you have questions, again, use your chat to put the questions in and we'll monitor that at the end. Great. Okay. Lots and lots to do. So I'm hoping that your brains are spinning here on what you could do and how easy it would be to actually create a content calendar. So I'm not going to go through each of these, but this is an example of people who have done exactly that. One post creates multiple opportunities to discuss product and services on different things, blogs and everything else. And you will get a copy of these slides so you can take a look at them at your leisure. Amplification. Okay, so how do we amplify our content? Because there's the earned and there's the paid media. So earned media, again, is organic in nature by nature. So you want to encourage people to share your posts. You want to have people encourage tagging. You want people to encourage basically sharing your information out to their networks. Okay, that includes your blog posts. Like there should be share buttons on your blog posts if you have them on your website. If you have an e-commerce site and you have products that have pictures, and you can add those. You should add social sharing links onto each of those images so people can share what they're buying, because everybody likes to share. Hey, really love this product. This is a great company. Here's what I bought. It was awesome. Here's my review. It may only be on a social review as opposed to a Google review or a product review within your site. Hopefully you have that too.
Oh, he's the cuddly one.
So Sandra, can you just, yeah, thanks. You want to make sure that you're amplifying your content organically. Another way to do it is to invite collaborations with people who are also tagging the same or targeting the same kind of client that you are. They have a very similar or maybe very, very aligned target client, the buyer persona as yours. And so you can do something, or even a complementary, and you could do something where you're side by side on a screen like this, or a Facebook Live, or an Instagram Live, or YouTube, or podcast, or whatever it might be, where you're having a back and forth. And one of the things you could talk about is like frequently asked questions I get from my clients about this subject matter. And then you have a back and forth conversation that other people are interested in hearing about. It's easy. It's free. It's the only challenge you'll have is you're getting your technology set up and understanding how to do it. But it's an easy way to amplify both of your messages. So everybody on all their followers would be privy to your content, and all your followers would be privy to their accounts as well. So you're collaboratively sharing each other's material by doing a joint event. And helping promoting others, that's always a great way, because this is sounds a little bit manipulative, but the way that people work psychologically speaking is we keep bank accounts. So you do something good for me, I'm going to want to do something good for you. That's typically human nature. So if you can help promote others, they're going to help promote you. Do it authentically though. Don't be doing it for nefarious purposes. All right. So amplifying content organically, and then you can amplify content with investment. So that's your paid media. So things like boosting your posts. So if you have a post that's performing well in one of your social media platforms, you can generally boost those for a very low cost. You can broadly target who you want to see it geographically, gender, age, there's a bunch of different categories that you can do to boost. It's low cost. Like I think there's a client that we boost and we spend $175 per boost. And we do it once every 2 weeks, and they get thousands of response back and click-through actions on those. We can track those back. So we know that the boosting of posts work. It does take some time to ramp when you're starting to boost, because it's basically you're paying for an extra audience to see your material. But it can be low cost, and really what you want to promote there on your boosted post, you want to find a post that's already performing well, has good engagement, good followers, good viewers, good reach, and share that out, boost that out for for your budget amount. Ads are the next one where you can amplify your content. There's the platform ads like Facebook ads or Meta ads, and Pinterest has ads, YouTube ads, Google ads, all of those. You can go broke doing all of these if you're not careful with your budget. So you need to know what you're willing to spend. When you do ads, your targeting becomes much more refined. So you can be very surgical in how you and to whom you share your ad, who sees your ads. So that would be low to high, depending on how you're doing, but definitely set budgets and don't always listen to Google when they say, you need to spend more money here. Well, of course you do, because that's where they're making their money. You don't need to always, you just need to be smart about what you're doing, and keywords are important in those things. The other amplification, which is obviously the rage and everybody's heard about, is influencers. And the price range for that participation, it's quite broad. Some will look for an exchange in product. We had that one of our clients was asked to provide a home decor piece, a very expensive home decor piece, in exchange for quite a bit of content and sharing by the influencer. So it was a product that we had to, or we were offered to exchange for content that they promote within their site and their channels that we could also use. And then you have the larger influencers who have full media packages, and they would like payment for different things. So you have to consider your budget. Now, there are macro influencers like Kim Kardashian. I'm just going to keep on her because somebody brought her up the other day. Nano and micro influencers. So if depending on where your market is, you might only want a micro influencer with 2,500 followers, or if it's a very small local market or a very specialized market, or you might have a nano marketer who has that would be the nano marketer. The micro marketer would be 25,000 to maybe 100,000 instead of millions of followers. Again, so you want to take a look and see what makes sense for your buyer, what makes sense for your budget, and what makes sense for your general market for amplification with investment. And track these. Like you need to have, you need to know each campaign that you're doing. What's the goal? What am I looking to do? What am I looking to achieve? And then check the numbers every 2 weeks, every month, every week. You can see what things happen. I know some of the boosted posts that we've done for different clients, we may not see results right away. We may see a little hiccup and then, and then a steady increase over time on that particular link. So you do want to measure over time. One of our clients measures to see on the sales side, what the product change, purchase change, units metric changes on sales from before, 3 to 6 months before the boosted post, and 3 to 6 months after the boosted post, to see if there was an upswing. And generally speaking, there is. So that's good. If there wasn't, we would be stopping and doing something else. Okay, amplifying. Never-ending changes. So we talked about platform changes, where like Instagram has a shop function. I don't know how many of you have been using the shop function or even aware that you're in a shop function when you're on Instagram, or whether you're using it for your own needs, but Instagram has just decided that they're going to drop the shop option. Pinterest also has a shop option. And Facebook has marketplace as well as other options, but you're constantly up. We are constantly up as marketers against these conglomerates making changes that are sometimes for the better and sometimes not for us as business owners. So how can you hedge against the platform owners making changes that you don't have access to or any influence on? So we talked about earned media, we talked about paid media. Now we're going to talk about owned media. So owned media can't be taken away from you. So if you have, who owns your followers list? You do not. Shocker. If you thought you did, you do not. If your platform account gets locked out, like Facebook is notorious for doing, Twitter is notorious for doing, everyone's notorious at some point or another for doing that. how do you get it back? I've got a social media contact of mine. That's what she does for a living, is Facebook in particular. And her own account has been locked out 4 times now in the last year and a half. And it takes months to get this thing back. So she's lost all that momentum because of the lockout, which she's been reinstated every time she's been locked out, but it's taken months to do it. So she's lost an incredible amount of business. And she can do nothing about it. So how do you survive in a situation where things can happen that change what's happening for you? You have to be agile about it, but owned media is something you can't take away, can't be taken away from you. So really what you want to do is give your followers a reason to share their email addresses with you, or their mailing addresses with you, or their text numbers with you, because it gives you the opportunity to communicate directly with them outside of any platform. So when you're driving through to your website, or even from Linktree and Instagram, or whatever you might be using, make sure that you have an opportunity to collect email addresses so you can communicate directly. I can promise you that gal that I was just mentioning about the social media coordinator, or the social media marketer, if it hadn't been for her email database, she would have been really in a lot of trouble for her business, because I think she lost 6 or 7 months of communication with her clients. And she's got a really big following, but she also had a big following, a big asset for her business in her clients database and her prospects database. So she was able to communicate by email and her other channels to let people know what was going on. So you want to get and collect as many email addresses as possible. The other reason you want to do that is because when you have somebody who's interested enough to give you their email address, you know that they are a captured audience. And when you have a captured audience, you have more opportunity to add value, because you know that they're in a deeper stage of that buyer's journey than in the discovery stage. And they're more likely to become champions for your brand and your product and service. When you're communicating directly, they're more likely to refer or share your information by email. So you want to own that media as much of the databases as you can. That is a business asset. Just if you're thinking about, the valuation of your business as a business owner, it's a business asset. So keep that in mind and try and own those things. Your website is also your owned media. Your blog articles are your owned media. So there's all sorts of owned media, but I think the biggest one is to collect email addresses. That will hedge against any platform issues. And also the other hedge is to diversify a little bit. So if you're starting out with only one account, maybe try a different channel or try a different approach, like email marketing. I hope that makes sense. Okay, so what are the next steps? Yeah, you may be here. Anybody there right now after all this information I'm downloading? Okay, where do I start? First thing you want to do is you really want to benchmark where you are and then track it. So again, start Google Analytics, start logging your profile, your platform insights, making sure that you know where you are, and then setting those goals so that you can track to see whether you're achieving them, and that your marketing strategy aligns and your approach for content and messaging aligns with those goals. So everything that you do should have a purpose. If it's just building engagement, great. If it's just helping people understand your personality or the personality of your business, great. If it's introducing a new product, great. If it's driving someone to download something or click on something or ask something or tag you, great. But everything should have a purpose, and ideally 20% or more of your content should have a call to action. One call to action, not click here and or do this and or send me your email and or, just one call to action. We have too much paradox of too much choice right now. So we want to minimize that for action. Just take action or don't take action. It's fine, but this is the action. So one thing. So about 20% of your content should be a call to action to do something specific if it's in the sales area in particular. And then you want to track and compare. So just keep consistently measuring, because building your digital and online platform, your program, it does take time to build momentum. Sometimes it's quicker, sometimes it's longer, but you need to know your buying cycles of your ideal client. You need to know how much effort you need to be putting in, how much more content you need to be driving, or whether you need to just be amplifying the content that you already have. But you need to compare to see what's happening. So there's so many variables that can ramp you up quickly or slow you down. Just be aware, track, and then you can do little adjustments as you go. Next thing is to set up a content plan. Okay, so you want to create an editorial calendar of what you want to communicate when, what's relevant to your clients, your buyer persona, your prospects, that you can share over different days, different weeks, different months. We generally start out with a theme for each month, and we can base it around, time of year or special events that are happening or charities or whatever it might be, national observances. And then build a theme around that, or it's a theme, you can create themes around what's important to your ideal client. So is sustainability a theme? Is caring for seniors and the different stages of dealing with a transitioning of a senior, like those could be themes within your plan. So come up with a content plan, start with the annual by month, and then work out each week what your focus will be. And then you can cross-populate so if you're going to write a blog article a month, you can find enough information in your blog article to leverage that content to create multiple content pieces, posts, and what have you for your different platforms. So do keep an editorial calendar, just a general overview calendar. And then list topic ideas, because we always have, best time. We have topics when we're driving somewhere, or when we're, who knows, when we're in the bathroom showering in the morning, or wherever or when you're falling asleep at night or waking up in the morning. We have topics that come up. That would be great. Write them down, keep a file on them, because you can always go to them for future ideas. The content ahead of time, this is something. So if you've got that information, if you're a smaller organization and you don't have somebody doing this for you, it's really great if you take a day and or even half a day and just write out a whole host of posts for the month based on whatever your topic is, and then schedule it out. Or maybe it's just a week. Several of our clients just do a weekly, like on Friday, it's Friday social media day or digital marketing day. We create the content for the next week. We put it all up, we post it, we get all the hashtags right and all the information, the links together, and then we schedule it out. And you can do that within the platforms. You can do that with an aggregator like Hootsuite or Buffer if you have multiple platforms. So scheduling that out is great. If you have I recommend it, because then if you're the only one doing it and you're not able to do it 1 week, your consistency drops and people start losing that momentum. Consistency is key when you're posting online. Start engaging online, create your communities, join communities, offer to share value, respond, like, that kind of thing. You just need to stay in those areas, especially if your buyer persona is there. And then keep information sharing and education focused. 80% should be sharing and education focused. The rest should be product and service focused. Okay, because it's really about awareness and building your brand reputation, as well as selling what you do. You have to sell yourself first before you can sell the product. And the previous thing about the engagement in the communities, you really want to be, how does that phrase go? You want to be interested before you're interesting. So keep that in mind when you're doing that. And likewise, when you're building your connections, find out what other people are doing and how you can support them, and do that first. And that's about it for me today. So I'm sure we have a ton of questions. So I'm going to stop the slide here. So here's your opportunity to hot seat and ask what you have going on. So I see a couple here. I'm going to start with Stuart's. Why won't I use Twitter anymore? Well, for me, Twitter has never been a great place for where my peeps hang out. It was at the beginning. Twitter has changed and evolved so much over the years, and I wasn't really using it that much anyway, but with all the other bashing that's been going on and all the upheaval, I've turned off my own business account. I keep my personal account because I've got links to other things, but that's generally why I don't find my people there. And it's really more for me for getting information rather than spreading information. That's my personal choice. I have a client who just also dropped them. She has philosophical issues with what's going on, so she's dropped it for that reason. And I have another who dropped it because they just didn't have any engagement. There was nothing going on. They could post and post and post and post, and it just wasn't going anywhere. So some of the algorithms must have collapsed on them without their realizing it, and they've dropped Twitter. So hope that answers your question, Stuart. Tips on developing a social media plan that addresses multiple audiences who are very different. Yeah, so that's where your channel strategy comes into play, where you understand each buyer persona or each user persona. So if you have, you have one for employees, you have one for, you'll see that like a tutoring company. And I know you've got workforce planning board. So I understand you're sort of in the job matching recruitment stuff. You've got the job seekers, you've got the employers, and then you've got anything else in there that might have impact. So you can have streaming done for each of those, and where would you best find them? So one of our clients is business to business, large. They're across Canada. They've got 1,600 employees, and they deal with infrastructure companies. And so we have Facebook is where we work with them for their employee base, and LinkedIn is where we work on them from a business base. So we have two different streams and two different channel strategies for those two different audiences. And then we have other, we cross-platform in other areas, but we have blogs for the employees and we have blogs for the clients, because we want to maintain there. So I don't know if that helps, but if you have different users, you want to make sure that you're seeing them where you're meeting them where they are and where they hang out the most. If everyone is on Instagram, you can either have two different accounts in Instagram, one for each, or you can have different branding of your posts based on what market you're looking at or what group you're talking to. So you could say for employers, for job seekers, and everybody might be interested in the stats that are coming out. So I don't know if that helps, but that would be how you'd handle that. One idea anyway. Melissa says, I'd love to maximize using video links on Instagram. Any way to successfully do this without downloading the video or using Linktree? No one seems to look at it. So maximizing video links, I think, maybe I need to talk to you about this actually. If you don't mind unmuting Melissa, Sandra, then we can maybe have a conversation if she's willing.
Hi there, sorry.
That's okay.
So what I mean by this is that for Instagram, they do not support links, video links, as long as if they're downloaded, they will. Like, so if you upload a video,
like a reel or something. Yeah,
correct. But I cannot put in a link to people to click on. They don't support that. You can't click on it.
Right. On Instagram, you can't. You have to use Linktree or something like that. Or you can, yeah, it's difficult. So they want you to have the source content right there in Instagram.
Yes.
Yeah. So and you have to do your reels within the app. You can't do them out. You can do them outside and upload them, but you can't for stories. So it's very,
absolutely. Yeah.
Right.
Okay. So yeah. So
Linktree. Yeah.
Linktree, if you like it or not. Okay. Thanks.
Yeah. And you were asking where you can look up and learn about keywords, Melissa.
You mentioned keywords. I thought, well, that's interesting because I do social media on the side. So that would be good to know.
Yeah. So there's in Google, there's a keyword tool you can use there in the platforms, when you're boosting a post, there's keywords to search on. And even if you just put in the search fields, you can do your own little informal research by, using a hashtag, because that's a keyword hashtag, and then see what comes up, like a hashtag. I don't know what you do, but hashtag social media, and it will start populating just like Google does. If you start typing in something, it gives you a list of questions people have asked.
I understand. Thank you. So when
Yeah,
you're saying keywords, it's really hashtags.
Yeah, and social media hashtags are the equivalent of keywords everywhere else.
Oh, I understand. Okay,
Yeah.
if I may, just really quickly, I'd like to share with everybody a website you can go to that actually shares keywords. That we say keywords, I'm picturing hashtags. It's best, and then yeah, I'll put it in the post. I'll put it in the chat rather. Everybody can see it.
Yeah, there's a number of them that you can use, best hashtags and a number of others, but there's also if you're looking at Google and how to come up with content, because this actually spins out to a different conversation or related. There's a website called answerthepublic.com, and there's a couple of them like that one, where you can type in a subject like small business marketing, and it will give you questions that people are the most common questions people are asking about, like how, where, when, why, how, all around, and it gives you the top 10 for each of those how questions, top why questions, top what questions. Yeah, Answer the Public's pretty interesting. You do only get, I think, 2 searches in a 24-hour or maybe a 48-hour period, so be mindful if you still want to use the free version. But it's great for figuring out blog titles and things like that, because if they're searching on those things, you want your headings and titles to be the same for more emphasis. Okay. All right. Thanks, Melissa. Oh, and she's put best-hashtags.com into the chat. So Bruce, we recently hired a company to help direct with this process. Is that typical? Typically, yes, typical, yes. If you can afford it, great. I always say, as a business owner, your job is to leverage your own time. And if you can get something done by somebody whose genius it is to do this work, and it costs you less than it would take you to do, because your hour is worth something as well, then hire it out. But you have to track it and monitor it. You can't just let them go free for all, because you can run into all sorts of problems that way. And I will give you a piece of caution too, is make sure that you have, if you can, give them an access that is not your main access, administrative access, unless it's absolutely necessary. Set them up as a user if possible. Other than that, because they can, if you're in as an administrator, of course, everyone knows they can change your password. And if things get ugly, I've seen it happen where some people just, worst case scenario, prepare for the best, but understand the worst. Just make sure you have control of your accounts. Okay. Does anyone have any specific burning questions that they would like to ask about their digital marketing strategy or anything? You've got me for about another 20 minutes, and I'm happy to hot seat anyone at this time. Marketing questions, have at.
Hi, Laura. It's Diego.
Hi,
Diego. Financial. How are you?
I'm great. How are you doing?
Good. I'm good. Thanks for the presenting. I have a question about Google reviews. We've been trying to kind of up our Google review game, and there's been a few of them that have been like not posted, or they've been banned, and they've been good reviews. I don't know. Have you dealt with that with some clients where, like, hey, we've asked some clients and they show us on their phone that, hey, yeah, it's posted, but we don't have it. And then when I reached out to Google, it's like, oh, it's based on our algorithm, so they didn't post it on our website, kind of thing. Have you come across that, or how can we avoid that?
Yeah, so sometimes it's just a matter of the language they use. They being the user, then the review, that can really cause problems. You have to fight to get that stuff added. So I would say consistently, you're going to have to spend some time, if it's relevant enough, spend some time really pushing Google. The other option is to have the user send the review to you, and you can maybe take a look, because you get to know after a while what works and what doesn't with Google's algorithms, and have them tweak it and then load a new one. And that's another option.
Yeah, because it's funny. So when you ask the client, be like, hey, it never got posted, did you do it? Then when they see it on their profile that it has been posted, but no one can see it else, right? So they're like, we've already done it. But And it's all positive, right? It's all great
Yeah.
reviews. Sounds like
And it can be a challenge. So I mean, I think you're financial, so you're going to be regulated even more with the algorithms. So just be mindful of that. I would say just have them send you a screenshot so that you can see it. The other option you could do is just if it isn't getting up on Google, is there another way you can share that testimonial? So if you can have them email their testimonial to you, and then you can post it on social, just saying, hey, or on your website, here's a testimonial and, 5-star review, another 5-star review, or whatever it is, where you're sharing it a different way.
Yeah, that's a good point, actually. I didn't think of that. And the other question is the second question, LinkedIn. I know you said like Facebook has insights, and does LinkedIn have insights?
It does. They're a little clunky, but yes.
They are. Okay, so I'll have to look into that.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's it?
Yeah, that's good. Thank you.
Okay, you're welcome. Who's next? Oh, come on, peeps. I know you got burning questions. Don't be afraid. I'm really not that hard to talk to.
Hi there, Melissa here.
Hi, Melissa.
I'm here to take over the world.
Okay.
Question. I always struggle with the ever-changing algorithms with Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube. It's kind of a joke for me to ask, but I'm going to try anyway. Do you know of one place where we can go to see a one-stop shop of what all the changes are? Yeah, it seems to be a secret, right? Like,
Yeah, and usually we find, my team finds out through a lot of the user forums and some of the tech forums. So we have to go to each individual one. And some of the like the aggregators like Hootsuite, Sprout Social, a couple of others will also on their newsletters let you know what's happening. Sometimes marketing newsletters from the big marketing companies, like there's a Morning Brew, Marketing Dive, Social Media Today. Those are 3 newsletters that I get regularly. They're mostly for the big guys, like they're big consumer brand focused, but they often will let this community know that changes are coming or changes are in place. It's like, oh, they just rolled this out last night without telling anybody. Yay.
thank you.
Yeah, that's how it goes. So yeah, I sadly no. And if you figure out a way to make that happen all in one place, you've got a gold mine right there, because people
Let
would
you
pay for that.
know.
Yeah.
I'll let you know.
Thank you. Okay.
Sorry, Laura, Diego again. I got another question.
Great.
You mentioned something about getting emails, like call to action, which I think is a great idea. How do you recommend doing that? Like, would you need like a specific like place on your website, like creating like a page where you can basically ask them to be like complete, sign up, provide your email to get this kind of thing? Like, how do you recommend?
Yeah, so you usually want to integrate an email, a newsletter, or an email marketing tool like MailChimp, Constant Contact, or any of those kind of platforms. I know the Chamber uses Constant Contact and has for years. You can create within those tools, you can create a landing page that can be posted on your website. You can also create buttons that can, as opposed to a landing page, that can be put onto your website, sign up here now. Or if you have a downloadable item, you can like some checklist or toolkit or something that they have to download in exchange, like for their email address. You can add that in as well as, so it basically, it's created, the button or the link is created in the email marketing program, and that's where the email database is collected. And then you can post it or integrate it into your website.
Perfect, thanks.
Or into your social media accounts. You can do that with Constant Contact and MailChimp. So they'll actually create a post where you can connect it.
Okay, great.
Mm-hmm. Great tools out there. We could talk all day about the tools that are available. Is anybody else scratching their head about anything I said anywhere?
This is Bruce. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Hi, Bruce.
Yeah, so I just want to follow with my question. So we're working with this company, and I'm not sure exactly what your company does. So the company is called Webware. And so we're trying to use them to help us do this SEO and kind of integrate with our website and all the things that you actually just talked about, we're trying to do, but we don't have the time to do. So we're trying to, are we on the right path with that idea, or are you aware of that company? Or so they're going to host
the company. I don't know that company.
Okay. Okay.
So they're gonna host, you said they're gonna host what?
Our website.
Okay, so they're
And
gonna
they're gonna,
host,
they're gonna set up the SEOs, and then they're gonna help us with, again, this is what they're saying, help us with content. And they're gonna link the, like Google reviews, they're gonna link that with our website, and maybe these are all things your company does, I don't know, right? So that's what I'm trying to understand. So
it
they're,
is.
it's
We do
basic-
some of that stuff, but yeah, it's, so what it sounds like to me, Bruce, is that they're saying, okay, we're gonna create your website. Or we're
Yes,
going to augment we're gonna update your website.
yes,
So you sound like a website host and a website developer.
yes,
And then and then they're going to add functionality into it where your Google reviews are showing up, where they're tracking your search engine optimization, your SEO. So making sure those keywords are in key places.
yes.
But it doesn't sound like they're going to do SEM, which is search engine marketing, which is your advertising or any of that kind of stuff. So yes, that's very typical of companies to get that support. Having it all in with one source. If you're really good buddies with this company, great. But because I've been around doing this for so long, I get worried about the worst case scenario. What happens if the relationship goes sideways? Do you still have ownership and administrative access to all of your files on their server? Do you have backups of your website that you can bring over to somewhere else in a heartbeat? But having somebody doing everything, that's fine, as long as you've got access and they're doing a good job. And how do you know they're doing a good job is you need to ask them for the numbers and the proof.
Okay,
One other thing, you want to make sure that their techniques that they're using in getting your search engine optimization going is what they call white hat and not black hat. And there's some gray areas for that. So one of the things that drives people to your website or drives the algorithms up for search engine optimization is something called backlinks. Okay, so backlinks are when, say you posted a blog article on something. Pick a topic for me.
hospital, about private care in people's homes.
Private care in people's homes. And I, as whoever I am, decide to share that article out in my blog post and reference it. Say I'm a publication, say I'm York Region newspapers, and I link to that article referencing your company.
Right.
That link from them to your website, to your blog, is called a backlink. Okay. Likewise, if somebody sees the blog, say on LinkedIn, and posts or sees a question maybe on Reddit, I don't know, and they post, here's a great article that I read recently, and they post a link to your article, that is also a backlink to your site. So anything that comes back to your site is a backlink.
Okay.
There are backlink sites where people are, like, have you ever seen on any social media or somewhere where you're reading something and there's a comment and it has something that's totally unrelated to the topic that's in discussion, and it links to something else, another website. Hey, check out my new free multi-level marketing sales methods. And it has nothing to do with the car show that we're talking about, the model of the car that we're looking at the topic of this post. That's also a backlink, but that can get a little bit tricky as to, is that a valid is that the best way to do a backlink? Because it's really not relevant to the topic of the post. It's just dumping stuff in to backlink to your site. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting trying to figure all this out, honestly. So my wife is writing an article, let's say, in the local paper on a monthly basis, and we're trying to bring that as a blog into our website and then have it sort of spit out into the social media world. And supposedly these guys can help us with it. We're just starting, so it's, like I said, it's a work in progress. But
that's great. So having the local paper do that, or York regional papers do that, that's awesome. And they're linking back to your site. Hopefully they're linking to the blog article where you have this information. And that's great, because then it gets perpetuated out. That's a white hat backlink. That's perfect. It's when you've got a company, and we've seen this happen, and we've shut things down where they're doing things not quite so well, let's just say, and not quite so appropriately. So you need to know who you're dealing with and how they handle things. So they should be able to talk about their process and how they do their backlinks, if backlinking is part of their SEO planning. You want disclosure from the people that you're working with if you're giving it out to them to do. Does that make sense?
Yeah, great. Thank you.
Okay.
Hi,
Hi, Divya, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good, thank you.
I have a question in regards to the metrics for search engine and PPC.
Yeah.
So I know it takes a while for the ranking to happen and things to move up organically and stuff like that. But what kind of metrics are considered sort of a good metrics to see when you're talking about, increase or growth month or over a period of time, or say every quarter sort of a thing, and you want to compare to see whether your SEO and PPC are really doing good? What sort of metrics are considered normal or decent or good, whatever,
Are you
in terms
asking
of
what
growth?
percentages? Are you
Yeah,
asking percentage of the
yeah.
numbers?
Yeah.
It depends. My favorite marketing answer and everybody's worst favorite marketing answer. So it depends on the nature of the goal. It depends on the nature of what you're promoting and how. So if you are you need to know, basically what I would check is I wouldn't worry about the percentages. I would worry about your percentages. Like, what were you getting before the post? What were you getting after the post? How many purchases were you made before and how many purchases after? And is that adequate enough to justify and rationalize your budget spend on those things? If it's not, then that's a problem, because every industry has different standards, honestly. So some people say, like, if you send in an email, that a 0.2% open rate is great. Well, 0.2% for 100 people, that's not even an open. So that's not going to be good enough for me. I need a 10% open rate. So that's why it depends. It depends. So I would measure it against your benchmarks and what you want to achieve from a goal perspective to make sure you're getting things right. Like, you should be able to figure out how much it costs if you're doing PPC, how much it's costing you per link through per lead through to your website, and how many of those are converting into sales, if that's the case, or calendar appointments, or whatever it is that they're supposed to do once they get to your website. You need to be able to track those things against your standards, not the industry standards.
Okay. Yeah, because one of the thing which the company I work for, PPC and SEO, is they basically look at year over year to see where it was on the same month last year per se, and how is it doing compared to that. Month over month is sort of hard. So I can see a little bit of increases of based on the budgets and everything, but I'm not really sure whether they're good, they're not good, or what does that mean? Because not those are more like your impressions.
Right.
And yeah, so it's hard to figure it out from very constructively to see, because they're not necessarily always converting into leads or into the sales further down the line.
And is that what it's supposed to do?
Yeah.
Is that what,
Yeah.
so what's the target of that ad for the pay-per-click? What's the target of that ad? And is it fulfilling on that target? So if your goal is, I want 100 leads out of this one ad that you're running, I want 100 leads that are qualified in this area, and those leads we know are going to convert to 5 sales, then we know that we have to buy, like, right? You can track it, how much you're paying for the ad, how much you're actually getting as in click-throughs to wherever you're telling them to click through, and then how many of those are developing. And that's the number that you want. And if you can't relate the two together, then you've got a problem, right? There's not tracking the right thing, or it's not doing what it's supposed to.
Okay.
And so if it's not doing what it's supposed to, there needs to be some changes. And then that's where your marketing support, your SEO people should have some recommendations as to making those changes. Or a marketer, that's where you've got to figure out what you need to do differently. We have the reason it's a challenge. I understand it's a challenge. Like, again, we have a client we took on a year ago, August. And we benchmarked where they were, and we've been getting great leaps and bounds from the social standpoint on exposure and amplification of their message. And we've been leveraging quite a bit of tools, and they're getting great results. They're getting their link, the call to action from social is to get them to the website or to a specific product page, which is happening. But when they
Okay.
get to the website, they're not converting.
Right.
So then we have to ask as marketers, why aren't they converting? We know there's more people going to the website. We should be upping the number of sales we have, but they're just
Right.
not converting. So is there something wrong with the website? Is there something wrong with our pricing? Is there something wrong with how we're presenting the product?
Mm-hmm.
Becomes a different question, but there aren't
Okay.
any specific metrics to say this is what the standard should be.
Okay. Okay. Got it. Thank you.
You're welcome. We got like 5-10 minutes left. Anyone else?
I just had, it's Stuart with ABM. Just had a couple very quick questions.
Sure.
Down in the States, ABM is the largest janitorial company in the world. Up here in Canada, it's a much smaller operation. I'm really trying to get the operation up and running up here in Canada effectively, and I don't think I've done a very good job of it, but a couple very quick questions on that. First, I understand that there are some pretty strict laws in Canada as far as emailers going out to kind of random clients. And I wanted to know if you know anything about that. And second, on your website optimization, I think you used to be able to go through Google, pay a fee to kind of put you up the list. I think those days are now gone.
Correct.
What is the best way of doing that, and how expensive is it to do it? Is it kind of up to the company that you're reaching out to try to help you with that, or how does that work?
Yeah. So first question is CAN spam laws on email. So there, if you need to understand the CAN spam laws, it's like the GDPR stuff in overseas. And you are allowed to send one email unsolicited to a new prospect if they one only, and then you have to give them options to subscribe or unsubscribe, but it should be a double subscribe opt-in. If you do more than that, you can be challenged for spam, which we really frown upon up here. So you need to understand those laws. So you can send an email out, but you just have to give people an opportunity to and create enough value for them to opt in to subscribe or not. If you're reaching out to business clients, which I think you might be, you probably want to look at LinkedIn as an opportunity to do that, to reach folks in your target group. I'm assuming you're B2B and larger scale commercial. Is that true?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, so LinkedIn might be a better opportunity to reach out to people because you can send in mail, what they call in mail, LinkedIn IN mail, where you can reach out through that system to a very broad group of people, and you can do that legally without having all the headaches. But then again, you don't own their email addresses. So eventually when you get their email addresses, once you have their email addresses, you are by them giving it to you in some way, even if they hand you a business card, technically that's legal, you can then start emailing them directly. Okay, so does that answer that question?
Yes, it does. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. And the second question was SEO and keywords and how do you get your rankings up in generally. And as we talked about, the algorithms, Google's no different. The algorithms change all the time. Google really likes to see content and added value. So if you're adding value for your clients and they see that where it's true value and it's relevant to your client base, who they deem your clients or your target prospects, they will like that and increase your ranking. If you cross promote through YouTube, for example, with descriptions and things like that, where you're using another Google platform to create more content that's of value and relevant for your client base, they will like you more. And if you have backlinks from different places, like we were talking about earlier with Bruce, when there's backlinks from reputable sources like Huffington Post or the publications or even other large brands like Walmart tagged you or whatever, those Google likes that too. So the more exposure you have from credible sources, people, official and credible sources that they like, the more your number goes up as well. So there's a whole algorithm there. And then if you buy ads, if you invest money with Google, guess what? They like you more. So it's all about how do you build and stack to create a better ranking. The other thing is there's so many keywords that you could have listed on your website. Like whenever somebody searches on something, this is why blogging is so important. Whenever somebody searches on something, those are the keywords that they're using to find you. And questions are more common now than they used to be. So how do I get more backlinks? And that could be an article of a blog, for example. You have keywords in there, you have a key phrase in there, and then you have more articles and key phrases that are relevant for your target audience. And Google's algorithms say, hey, you've got great content on your website. It's all valuable. And it's got all these search engine keywords and strings that we like, and they're relevant. Will move you up the chain as well. So again, it's a stacking process. And that's the best answer I can give you.
Nope, that was a very good answer, but I think you and I probably need to have a more in-depth conversation one of these days. But thank you so much.
You're welcome. Does anybody else have anything else to add or ask? All right, Sandra, I think we're
good. Well, thank you very much, Laura. That was a really terrific session. The last two sessions have been wonderful. So thank you so much for sharing your time and your expertise with us. It's really appreciated. And like I said earlier, I will be sending out Laura's slide deck as well as a recording of today's session. So you can refer back to it at your leisure. The only other thing I just wanted to mention before we leave, the Chamber has an event coming up in another couple of weeks. It is our holiday jingle and mingle on Thursday, December the 8th. So I encourage all of you to go to our website, aurorachamber.on.ca, and register for the event. It'll be a lot of fun. It's at Tipsy Goose right on Yonge Street in Aurora. So we hope to see everybody there. So thank you very much, Laura, and I hope everybody has a fabulous day.
Thanks everyone for coming.
Thanks. Take care, everybody.